name and tell us where you're from. We'd love to welcome you. We know we have an international audience and we really love to see where everyone's coming in from. So if you could go into the Q&A function and just say hello. We have Sharon from Yerushalayim. Welcome. We have Mindy from Yerushalayim, Jeremy from London, Mindy, Ellen Berry from California, Mike Levine from Denver, Margie from Jacksonville. Don't be shy. Kansas City, Missouri, Debbie from LA, Ann from Washington, DC, Darlene from Omaha, Sharon from Tampa Bay, Florida. Sheila is calling in, is joining us from Van Nuys. Sabina from London, Ontario, Canada. Lisa from Connecticut, Nina from Cleveland, Nancy from Newport Beach, Nancy and David, Susan from Toronto, Melody from London, Carol from Columbus, Ohio, Bill Weisel from Israel, welcome. Meryl Stern says hello, Mindy from California, Ginger from Netanya, Marianne from New York City, Julie from Jerusalem, Rochelle from Washington, DC, Marty from Omaha. Oh, we have so many people from all over, and we are so thrilled to have you joining us today. My name is Deb Engel-Collin. Oh, I see cousin Stanley is here from LA. Stanley Kendall, hello. This is really just wonderful. My name is Deb Engel-Collin, and I am the relationship manager for the Miller Introduction to Judaism program here at AJU. American Jewish University advances and elevates the Jewish journey of individuals, organizations, and our community through excellence in scholarship, teaching, engaged conversation, and outreach. This Biyachad platform was developed to deliver online learning that captures the insights of our faculty and friends and convenes our diverse and inclusive community to advance ideas, dialogue, and debate. I am privileged to introduce my friend and colleague, AJU's Michael Berenbaum, Professor of Jewish Studies and Director of the Siggy Ziering Institute at the American Jewish University. He is a writer, a scholar, and a creator of museums. His work has been recognized by the Emmys and Academy Awards. Today, Michael will be in conversation with Mindy Weisel, originally an LA girl, an internationally renowned artist, author, and speaker. Mindy was elected into the Smithsonian Archives of American Artists in 2000, and her works are in the permanent collections of the National Museum of American Art, Oxford University, and the Israel Museum, among many other public and private collections. Mindy is the author of Daughters of Absence, Transforming a Legacy of Loss, and Touching Quiet, Reflections in Solitude. Today, Michael and Mindy will be discussing her new book. This is the official book launch, After the Obligation of Beauty, and about the struggle to understand the generational trauma into which she was born and her unshakable will to live with beauty. Questions can be put in the Q&A function, and there's time at the end. Michael will get to them. And we encourage you all to buy the book. The link is in the chat function. That is, you should find it there, and you are going to enjoy this conversation because Mindy and Michael are old friends and their chemistry is just fantastic. So I'm going to put myself on mute, hide myself, and enjoy this conversation like the rest of you.
Okay, first of all, Mindy, good evening to you. Mindy is speaking to us from Jerusalem, where she is in quarantine, having just returned from New York and celebrating the bar mitzvah of a grandson, which is a wonderful milestone. Mindy, and again, this is a wonderful occasion. It's the book launch. The sadness I have only is we were supposed to do this in person, and you were supposed to go on a book tour all over the place and appear, and people would begin to get a sense of your ethos. So we'll have to approximate it on Zoom, but it's a tremendous thing. Tell us for a moment, because your background is so absolutely spectacular. Tell us a moment about your background and what that painting is.
Michael, when I've explained something to me about this incredibly exciting book launch. First, I wanted to say what I had mentioned before. Everybody in the planet knows this about you who knows you, but really my definition of a generous person is one who offers themselves up before you have to ask. All I did was mention to Michael, my dear friend of almost 50 years, Michael. It's great.
Yep.
I can't believe it even saying it. But anyway, all I did was mention that I had finished this book and would Michael be so kind as to read it. He read it. He offered really wonderfully supportive comments, and that meant the world to me because we all know Michael's scholarship and research and commitment and dedication to this world of after the Holocaust and during the Holocaust, and it meant a great deal to me. And so this is the book launch. I thank you, and thank you so much. So the background, it's an interesting story. In 1978-79, I became absolutely obsessed, consumed. I don't even know what the word is because I never really know where painting comes from, with my father's number. And you'd think that I never knew his number. I mean, I would call my father, Tati, what's your number? And for almost a year and a half, I start each painting by writing. And this particular period, I just wanted to write my father's number. And I wrote and wrote and wrote. The paintings were beautiful. They were gorgeous. And I didn't let them live that way. I blackened them all out. And to my great surprise, there was always light coming through the paintings. And it's just, I mean, I thought I couldn't live without the darkness. I couldn't live without the color. Clearly, I didn't realize it then. You never really realize what you're doing in the process if you're really doing. If you're thinking while you're painting or you're thinking while you're writing, you're not writing and you're not painting. So after all this time of working with my father's number in these dark paintings, I had an exhibition, and it ended up in Contemporary American Jewish Artists exhibition at the Jewish Museum in New York. My brother, my family, everybody came. It was incredible, including my ultra-Orthodox Hasidic family. They all came to the museum. And I finished that, and then I had a simple nervous breakdown. I didn't realize what it took out of me really doing that work. I'm not aware of what I'm feeling. I'm kind of a vessel, and I do what I have to do, and then after I kind of fall apart. Okay, I find 3 months, I rest, I read, get back to the studio, and it was as if I'd been on a desert with those black works. There was just this explosion of color. And I felt that the paintings with my father's number were clearly about my father. And all I wanted to do was paintings about my mother's love of blue, lily and blue. So I'm painting and I'm painting and I'm painting. And one of the things in Yiddish, it's interesting, the obligation of beauty, because it's something I felt very early on a very intimate, personal level. My mother had lost, her sisters were holding children. Michael and I were talking about this before. My mother thought because they were holding children, the Nazis wouldn't take them, because who would take somebody with a child? So she stood alone, separate from her sisters, and all her 5 sisters went to the gas chambers with their kids, and my mother survived. She was the only woman in her family who survived. And so I did this painting, and it's called the Shemsta. And it was growing up with this obligation of beauty, of what she had lost, and that was what she instilled in me. And this painting is truly a story. I sold it to the assistant director at the LA County Museum of Art in 1985 when it was done. I really grieved it. It's huge. You can't see, it goes from one end of my living room to the other, and in my small apartment in Jerusalem, but it's huge. And I really miss this painting. Fast forward 30 years, I get a phone call from this woman who no longer was at the LA County Museum, that she was moving from her big house in Laurel Canyon or someplace gorgeous where all of you LA people live. And she couldn't take the painting. Did I want to give it up for auction, or what did I suggest? So I bought it back. And I got to live with it. And now it's part of our family again. So for 30 years, it's like a child came home. So that's what's behind me.
So let's catch up for a moment. We should just inform our guests and the audience. Your parents were both Hungarian Jews who arrived in Auschwitz. And
my mother was Hungarian. My father doesn't like to say, he wouldn't speak Hungarian. He was from Sighet, Romania.
yeah, he was from Sighet, Romania, but he was deported as a Hungarian.
Right.
He was deported as a Hungarian Jew. Elie
Right.
Wiesel, whose name you have and who's related to you, also was from Sighet. He was born in Romania. He was
Right.
persecuted in Hungary. He was deported
Right.
to Auschwitz from Hungary. So
Right.
historically, we have to say that. And you yourself were born in Bergen-Belsen.
Right. That is correct.
So
After the war.
you are a combination of two things. Number one, anybody who brought a child into the world in Bergen-Belsen had the courage to face the future, an unknown future. And you are the decision essentially to create life out of death. You are the resurrection, as it were. We don't use such terms in Jewish thought, but you're the rebirth. You're the regeneration. You're the newness. And the other part of it is that you've struggled, and bring us up to date on that. You've struggled all your life with what it means to be a child of survivors. And that meant you were the good
Go
girl.
ahead. You know, what I've learned is not all survivors' firstborn daughters are such good girls, but I can't imagine having been anything else. I mean, in fact, I think the reality that I was born into this trauma, and I love what you just said, Michael. I just love it, that
Well,
I never thought of.
somebody in our audience said something even better on Q&A, and I'm sorry the person is anonymous. She is the hope.
Oh my God, maybe that's why I'm so driven. I mean, but Michael, I love what you said, that I never thought of it that way. That I know that David Grossman, the Israeli writer, had written that he felt that anybody who had a child after the Holocaust was phenomenally brave, that they believed they could love. And I think what you just said is very, very meaningful to me. I mean, really, yeah, the bravery to think that they wouldn't lose that child, or, you know, it's interesting.
I mean, it's really incredible because they didn't know what the world would be like.
Right.
They didn't know where they would live, what they would do, what they would be, what the future would bring. They didn't even know that the Nazis were not going to return. And yet they created you.
They created life. Well, the reaction, I mean, Helen Epstein's book in 1979, just Children of the Holocaust, just was the most groundbreaking. All till then, till 1979, I felt alone. I did go to high school in LA, to Fairfax High School, and there were 5 of us girls who were all Holocaust survivors' daughters. Interestingly enough, firstborn daughters with a younger brother. All of us. And we would meet at this bench, and we were such lonely kids. We kind of didn't know we were lonely then, though. And we shared so much, and we thought the whole world didn't have grandparents and stuff. And then at 16, I meet my husband, who had grandparents on both sides. It was such an awakening. And my father still, Knahara, is alive and well in LA at 96. And he, you know, my husband was the American, you know. The American.
He's not the American. He's not the American. He's the Americana.
He was the Americana with the little kippah, you know, kippah sruga. But anyway, I think there are certain things that are shared. First of all, in the past 70 years, they've learned so much. You know, studies have come out, psychological studies that have proven that Holocaust survivors' children fall into two groups. And I have found that to be very accurate. Either in the same family, even one might have absorbed the sadness, one might have absorbed the anger. I absorbed a tremendous amount of sadness, just unbearable sadness. And I wasn't allowed to show it because how could I show I was sad? I wasn't in Auschwitz. My bar for living was incredibly high. I wasn't supposed to cry. I wasn't supposed to complain. I mean, what am I to complain about? I have a bed, I have shoes, I have food. So I grew up.
Couldn't even say you were hungry.
You couldn't even say you were hungry, right? Right. So you gnashed all the time in private, you know. But I think what it really does, the damage I think that it really did to my generation, that I think it might take more than even my three daughters, their generation. I think the damage is that, think about it this way. You have a mother who really suffered. You know she suffered. She's trying to create a beautiful life for you, but she doesn't really know how. And you know that you want to make this mother happy, but you don't really know how because you don't have a mother who's teaching you how. And then you keep looking at this mother's face to see how she feels. So when you come home, let's say, and you're very tired from something, you don't have a mother who says, oh, I see you're tired, the way I might say to my children. I'm looking at my mother, is she tired? So you grow up and you get to a certain point in your life where you realize you don't really know how you feel about anything. So you don't trust your own feelings. You can say I'm tired, but Michael, you don't believe it.
But Mindy, there's something interesting because I'm going to ask you a double question, but make comment on your paintings to begin with. I want you to share with us how you paint because it's intriguing to me. When you tell us how you paint, you actually begin by not knowing what the hell you're going to paint.
Yeah, no, I
And
think
you have this explosion of emotion, which is read into the canvas.
right. You got it. You really got it, Michael. So basically, I think if I knew what I was going to paint, I probably would be too bored. I think painting allows me a place to feel where I don't have to worry what anybody's thinking. And one of the things that doing, this is a very good example. When I started out, I majored in art. I worked towards a master's in art at American University. I had great mentors. I became a professor, associate professor at the Corcoran College of Art and Design. That in itself felt miraculous in my life. But let's go back to beginning painting and how you realize, oh my God, I really mean this. In 1978, when I was really seriously working with these dark paintings, my professor took me to the art dealer who's now the director of the American University Art Museum, Jack Rasmussen, took me to him. He was only 28 years old, and he said, you know, I know you're a serious artist and you want to be taken seriously, but I don't know if I can show these dark paintings. They probably won't sell. You have Hebrew lettering in it. You have, what are these dark paintings even about? But you know what? We're going to show it. And the paintings sold out. A priest, I mean, somebody, Capitol Hill, people, I mean, there was not a painting left at the end of the evening. Reviews started coming in. I mean, like on my birthday, it was incredible. The opening was first week in January 1980. Michael, what did I learn from that? That as long as I paint what I'm feeling, I'll be okay. I'll have what to paint. I don't have to worry if anybody's going to like it because I didn't paint the Holocaust paintings for anybody to like it. I painted because I had to do it. Nothing has changed in 45 years of painting. I still paint what I need to paint, but I don't know what I need to paint till I'm in the act of painting. I write about this in the book. The way I started painting is kind of interesting to me still because I can't start painting right away. I write and I write and I write and I write till you can't even read what's on. I just write till I feel completely emptied of language. There's nothing that would come out of my mouth if you stop me at that moment. And then I start painting. And painting for me is simply it's difficult, it's challenging. I mean, it's never been easy. I'm always amazed that anything came out of it. And I've told my children and grandchildren this now, that the only credit I deserve is a painter, because it all feels like when they say gifted, you're gifted. It is a gift. It's a gift. I don't know. It's a gift. But the only thing I do deserve credit for is I stayed with it. I would not abandon that work. And in fact, the chapter, My Mother's Back, says it very clearly. I stay with the work. I'm willing to let it go black again. I'm willing to let it almost die. And then I can't take it that it's going to die. I can't take it. And I find a way, and this is the miracle of the act of painting to me, of bringing it back to life. And I'm not afraid. My first real experience with color was I had done a gray painting after I had finished the paintings with my father's number. And I'm still uncomfortable calling them Holocaust paintings. I mean, it's, to me, they're my father's number. He was in the Holocaust. They're not hardly Holocaust paintings, you know. But I did a gray painting, and I'm standing in front of this gray painting, and I keep saying, you know, should really put a drop of red in there. And I'm saying, nah, I'm going to ruin the painting. And I keep saying, nah. And I'm having this whole ridiculous debate with myself. And then finally, I said, look, either you're a painter or you're not a painter. You're going to put the red in, put it in already. I put the red in, and the painting sang. And I learned then that I can only listen to myself. There can't be any other voices in my head, you know, and if I fail, I fail. I'm not, my husband just recently said, it's very interesting. I have no fear of speaking publicly. I'm anxious about a million things, but never speaking publicly. So I asked my husband just yesterday, why do you think that is? And he said, because you're not afraid of failing. So I'm not afraid of failing, and I keep going. That's it.
We can't, one of the interesting things, and I said this when we were planning this, I said, gee, I'd love for you to take me to your studio. You deliberately do not have Wi-Fi in your studio. You shut it down. It's sort of, it's your sanctuary. It's your retreat. It's your cave. It's your haven. It's also probably your
It's
torch.
also my panic chamber. In the beginning, when I used to go alone in my studio in Washington, D.C., Michael, you'll appreciate this, on 8th and F, we should have all bought buildings at that time.
That's right.
A dump on 8th and F. I would be very nervous, and I would call my husband at a payphone, and my husband would say, you know, just go up, see if you can get through the door, see if you can stay a half hour. And then, of course, once I was in, I was fine. But I forgot what you were asking me.
Well, let me push it.
We're old, Michael. We're getting older.
Let me tell you what I found.
Oh, the internet. Wait, hold on. I want to answer your very good question. I can't say in all honesty that I chose not to have an internet. The studio in Jerusalem, which was excellent rent, did not come with Wi-Fi, and I chose not to get it. And that is a godsend. Yeah, I go in, but Michael, I never know what's going to be. I put on the music. This might be interesting to the audience. People have asked me, do I paint in silence? Do I paint music? I'm very careful with the music I select. If I need to cry, I'll put on something that'll make me cry. If I need to dance, I'll put on Broadway. If I need La La Land. I mean, it really, I dance, I laugh, I cry, I scream. Some of my best paintings are when I'm angry. Some of my best paintings are if I'm having fantasies. I mean, who knows? You know, I really don't know. I just go with it. I trust it.
I want to go back to what you said after the obligation of beauty. It strikes me that one of the most profound responses to the Holocaust is contrary. You are a response to the Holocaust. In a world of death, you create life. In a world of ugliness, you create beauty. In a world of suffering, you create healing. In a world of indecency, you create acts of decency that one of the most profound responses that we can have to the Holocaust is precisely to negate it. Not to forget it, but to negate it, and negate it in the way in which we do, the way in which we behave. And your way of negating it, which strikes me as intuitively profound. You know, you're dealing with me, with an intellectual who thinks it through, and here I'm dealing with a woman who is emotionally explosive, who doesn't think it through, who feels it through. It's sort of, if I'm the head, you are the heart.
I don't cross thinking.
Okay, well, that's
For me, anyway, I'm glad you think, I'm glad Shelley thinks, I'm glad my grandchildren are thinking, but for me, it didn't work. I flunked everything except art and
But
history
now
and
let's
literature.
push. Tell us what you mean by the obligation of beauty.
My daughter Ariane, when I speak publicly, which I've done now really for 35, 40 years, I've always talked about the survival of beauty, because I used art as autobiography as my platform. So I usually would have art and showing how from dark to light. And then I started working with glass, which is the ultimate light, just also as if I knew it my whole life. And when I went to write this book, I started 11 years ago. I started, and it was called Making Marks. And I really didn't know where it was going, and I wasn't going to rush it. And it took me time, and the book changed as I changed, as I got older. I'm 74, so 11 years ago, how old was I? 63. And the book would have been maybe my parents' story, then it became my story. And in the book, the big question was, how did I come to believe in beauty? And what does beauty mean to me? All I know, Michael, is if I'm in the presence of somebody's good energy, in the presence of real love, in the presence of kindness, in the presence of flowers, I really feel God. I mean, for me personally, my children know when they were young, they would say, well, Mom, do you believe in God? How can you believe in God after the Holocaust? I'm asked this question all the time. And I feel that we just need to look around at the beauty that has survived, that is around us. Music, dance, poetry, flowers. You don't have to be an artist, just breathe. Look at the sky, look at beauty has affected me, has impacted me. I could be severely low, and I do get depressed. I don't want anybody to think, I'm like I'm not on drugs, and I'm not, I'm living. I think this is what the book is about, that to feel beauty, to feel anything in life, you have to live it fully. And I'm willing to live it fully. I don't have a choice. I needed to learn to recognize my feelings, and my feelings luckily went into the direction of finding beauty. I feel very fortunate. I worked very hard. One of my grandchildren, my firstborn grandson, is very entrepreneurial. And my daughter recently said to him, Asher, you have to understand, Bubby, yes, Bubby's done very well, Zadie's done very well, but they worked so hard. You have to be willing to work. And I feel how blessed I've been that my work has involved beauty. And it's still amazing to me that anybody understands the painting I do.
Tell me about your work in glass, because you've just received an incredible commission to work in glass.
Yes, it's an unbelievable.
And tell us about that commission, because it's got an intriguing connection to everything else.
Everything that your life is devoted to. And then I have a question for you. In 2005, I walked into a glass studio in Silver Spring, Maryland, and somebody was having a lesson in how to make something with fused glass. She was working with powders. I didn't know, it was completely foreign to me. And I asked her, do you give lessons, and can I come? And she said, sure. When would you like to come? I said, tomorrow. I came home and I told my husband I'm going to learn how to do glass. He said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I haven't a clue, but I'm going to learn glass. interestingly enough, the first glass piece I did was 18 layers of fused glass done in powders in which I did my father's number, like in negative space. I didn't know anything about glass. I took to it, Michael, like as if I did it my whole life. And I used it the way I use paints, but instead of paints, I used glass, broken glass, glass stringer, glass powder, colored glass, there's no paint in any of my glass. Okay. Right away, Jack Rasmussen, my kind of angel with the art who agreed to show my Holocaust paintings, 2006, offers me an exhibit at the American University Art Museum in glass. I take my daughter Ariane, we go on a trip to India. She's already in Israel. She says, Mom, let's meet in India. I say, fine. You think she'd ask me to meet her at Starbucks? I mean, it was literally like that. She's in Israel, I'm in America. Mom, let's meet in India. I go to India, I cry every day. I'm full of the color. I come back. I do 18 or 36 works, I think, in glass. One is more colorful and beautiful than the other. It's called Words on a Journey. That became the exhibition. And then all of a sudden I started getting commissions to do glass. Fast forward to 2021. The US State Department, Cultural Affairs, there's a woman there, Martina Kohl, who invited me to speak there in Germany to be a cultural emissary in Germany in 2009. And we've been communicating recently, and she said, what are you doing? I said, I'm working in glass. She said, well, would you like to put together a proposal for an exhibition in Berlin? So, you know, nothing comes really right away. You kind of walk around, you think this, you feel this, I'm gonna do this. Nothing felt right. And one morning I woke up and I said, I'm gonna make beautiful glass. I'm gonna break that glass, and then I'm gonna make it beautiful again. And I'm gonna do 18 full, beautiful windows in Berlin in honor of Kristallnacht. They didn't win. The glass didn't stay broken. And they loved it. I'm so glad they loved it. And I got the grant. The US Embassy in Berlin offered me the grant. And in September soon, I'll find out where and when and how. And, you know, but I'm looking forward to doing that. I used to say, Michael, who knew? I used to say, I was like 19, 20 years old. I used to say, you know, if they give me the Hirshhorn, I fill it up. And I still feel that way, like, give me a chance, you know, I'll fill it up. You know, in Chorus Line where they, yeah, that's like my favorite.
So
Let me do it.
tell us a little bit about your relationship. We'd have to say your relationship with Germany, but also one of the most moving parts of your book is your relationship with Germans. And
this is the most, I agree, it's fascinating. I mean, I don't know if they're watching, not watching, but I have genuinely close friends who happen to be ambassadors. That's what happens when you live in Washington, D.C. I won't name them now, so let's just leave it at that. But basically, in 2007, for my 60th birthday, my husband and I went to Germany, and Michael Bandler, an old friend of ours in Silver Spring, Maryland, let them know that I was coming. Next thing I know, I'm having my 60th birthday at the Savoy Hotel. They're bringing out roses and cake, and I'm looking up thinking, Ma, if you live long enough, you know, my mother was already gone. And it was such a wonderful exhibit. And then in 2009, I was invited to exhibit at a gallery in Berlin. And then I was asked at that time if I would like to be a cultural emissary throughout Germany for 2.5 weeks. I didn't even know what that meant, Michael. I said, fine. Michael, the mayor of Dachau, I write about this in the book. I went to Germany feeling this hate just cannot continue. I have friends who won't buy a German product, who won't speak to Germans, who wouldn't dare. Mindy, what are you crazy? You're going to Germany. My father was interviewed. How do you feel? Your daughter went to Germany. My father said, I'm very proud of her. She wasn't raised with hate. I wasn't raised with hate. I was raised with a deep sadness. Now you can turn that into hate. I didn't. So I went to Germany, and the first lunch made for me, which I write about in the book, was by 4 Nazis children, I can't say children, they were in their 60s like I was at the time. They stayed in Dachau for artists to create art and make sure that something like this never happened again. Now, their father were Nazis, and they made a luncheon. My
We
friend,
have to,
yeah.
I'm going to only interrupt you. We have to
Yeah.
tell the people who are listening, and you did it because first time I visited Dachau, I walked it 3 times because I couldn't believe how close the camp was to downtown. And you have been at my same response. It is 2.2 kilometers. I walked it twice. I drove it 4 times. I went up on the church steeple because I couldn't believe how its proximity. And I am close friends with the former director of the Dachau Museum.
Oh, wow.
And she said a very interesting thing. Somebody once said, "You're the director of Dachau." She said, "No, I'm the director of the Dachau Memorial, and I live in Munich." She has to leave every day. So the idea that these people are staying in Dachau in proximity to that place and then working as artists, only somebody who's been to Dachau and has measured the distance can really.
Michael, you are 100% right. When I sent you the working manuscript book and we talked and you told me exactly 2.2 kilometers, Michael, what blew me away was they had this beautiful lunch. They lit candles, 6 candles, blue candles, memorial candles. And then I know that I'm going to go with a television crew to Dachau, to the concentration camp, which frankly, I never really wanted to go to a concentration camp. Michael, I thought I'm going to be in the car like an hour. I have a bottle of water. Like 8 minutes later, I'm in Dachau concentration camp. All I could think about while they're taking me to the camps is, where did all the people who lived in this city think the trucks and the people and the cattle cars and everything, where did they think they were going? And why was it okay? I mean, that was a shock. That was a shock.
And the other thing that's also a shock is that in 45, your parents were on death marches.
Right, my father, right.
Father was on a death march, and here come in straggling prisoners who are walking along all of the German countryside.
Exactly.
Shaved without hair, emaciated without, with barely the shoes that shoes, some of them have cloth, going through the German countryside. So it's an unavoidable response. So you become the cultural emissary. And tell us about your response to kids who are really great-grandchildren now, grandchildren or great-grandchildren of the perpetrators.
It was an incredible experience because I feel so blessed that I was able to do this. I was invited to speak to about 100 teenagers at the Dachau Educational Center. So I give Germany a lot of credit. It really does try very hard to educate, never again philosophy. There's a lot of Germans doing a lot of good work in Israel. But with the kids, I spoke a little bit German, and but they all spoke excellent English, and many of them, their grandfathers were Nazis, and they owned up to it. And one young girl, I just can't get over her. I'll never forget her. Out of these 100 kids, she literally stands up, and I felt like she got it. She said, "How do we make sure this never happens again?" And I just said, "You're sitting here, you're learning, you will make sure it won't happen again." I think our best bet, Michael, for generations to come is totally what you're involved in from day one, which is education. I have a question I'd like to ask you. How did you, I know you were born in America. I know you are a rabbi and a professor and a scholar and a researcher and a Holocaust museum starter and everything else. I could go on and on and on. But Michael, how did you and when did you become so fascinated by the Holocaust that you made it your life's work?
You answered it in an image that you use that's central to my work. You answered there's the presence of absence. And
Right.
when I go to Europe, I say there's not only the presence of absence, but there's the absence of presence.
I like that. Yeah. I have
And,
to think about that.
and that is, I grew up in New York, and I was educated in Hebrew-speaking yeshivot. And all of my teachers were Hebraists. They were either refugees or survivors, but we didn't use the term. And they believed that we had to make up, we were the generation of whipped cream and ice cream who had to make up for a brilliant generation that was annihilated. And we never spoke about the Holocaust, but we heard words: camps, death, children. And we also saw something else that was very interesting, which is in those days, people didn't wear short sleeves who had tattoos, they wore long sleeves. So your father's
Wow.
number we would not have seen, but apparently subliminally, all of this came. And if I had to sum up my career, I'd say I brought to the American public what was communicated to me as profoundly deep and all important, but never in words. I put it into words and images, me and my colleagues deserve more credit than I do. And then my second half of my career was getting survivors to talk and share their.
Right, with the Shoah Foundation,
So that
right.
your father at 96 said that he still teaches at the Simon Wiesenthal Center. So my thing was to grapple with the presence of absence, which became for me what sits on my shoulders and what energizes me. So you and I are of the same generation, but I was the American. In other words, my folks, now my father fought in World War II, so he was duly and fought against Germany and always taught, the incredible thing of this was our war. We had to win this. And I was talking to Shell before, your husband, I said, there was no question that I could never be a conscientious objector because the only way to defeat Nazism was to fight. And conscientious objector would, in my generation of Vietnam, would have been the most immoral thing imaginable. How could you not fight this thing? So I grew up with children of survivors of your of our generation.
Our generation, right.
I was the American. In fact, I'll tell you one story which only you can appreciate, which is that I wanted to take a friend of mine to camp with me.
Which camp did you go to?
Camp Ramah. But
Okay.
he spoke Yiddish to his parents. He translated camp to be lager. His father called my father, what type of crazy thing you are taking my kid to lager. Lager is the German word to camp. My father took him, my father said, let's take a ride. They went up to the camp. They saw swimming pools and tennis courts and basketball and baseball fields and a river. And he said to his son, this is not lager.
That's actually a great story.
You can appreciate that. But let's take two questions before we end up. Does the present increase of anti-Semitism and action, violent person, make you afraid of the repeat of the Shoah? What's your sense of the world?
For me?
Yeah.
I think that the only way we can combat anything is through love. I don't think guns isn't going to do it. Hate isn't going to do it. War isn't going to do it. I think education, I think it's tragic and I think it's very real. I'm not denying it, but I won't go there. I don't think, look, I live in Israel. Israel is a fighting country. It's a tough country. And we have American Jews, we have Israeli Jews, we have Jews who are going to fight, but I hope we don't have to. It's sad. I mean, it's tragic. It's tragic.
Okay, we have promised our audience 45 minutes. This has taken about 5 minutes, But we have to continue, Mindy. It's been a pleasure. Let's wish everybody a Shana Tova, Tiva Chatima Tova. And
Amen.
as always, it's a pleasure. And hopefully the world will allow me to be in Jerusalem in December, and I'm inviting myself to dinner.
You're coming to dinner, Michael, my dear friend, and really just stay well. Stay
Okay.
well.
Deb, back to you.
Thank you
Okay.
so much. This was just fabulous. As one of our anonymous attendees said, you two are amazing. And to hear you two talk and learn from you, it was just absolutely magnificent. There's no other word to say it. It's inspiring. It's just what my soul needed today. So thank you so much. I want to thank AJU, and I want to thank all of our audience members, and I want to wish everybody a healthy and happy new year. And we hope to see you again and again on our platform here. Bye-bye, everyone.